Hey 501, happy June. June 1st. Hope everybody's doing well on this warm summer evening. I want to check in with everybody. Some quick housekeeping first. I wanted to talk about the midterm. I set up a forum in the Q&A. So if you have specific questions on any of the midterm activity questions, go ahead and we can chat on them there. I'll try and watch that pretty closely to be able to chime in. We can do it in a discussion format. You guys can interact with each other, talk about the questions. I know that probably some of them you want to process. Some of them definitely taking some more thinking than others. But overall, I think that people did pretty well on the midterm activity. I sent out the results in an announcement earlier. I know a couple of you contacted me worried about your scores. So given the standard deviation on the midterm and looking at the scores overall, I'm going to go ahead and add a curve up 1.5 for anybody who had it done on time. There's a couple stragglers out there. If you guys please get them done. Whoa. Sorry about that. If you guys could please get your midterms in ASAP, would be most appreciated. I'm gonna have a hard time really doing the discussion board until everybody's in. So please do that. So it's the midterm, and again, just doubling back on that. Remember that the midterm, the whole point of the assessments there is root cause analysis, one, and two, really making sure that you are only utilizing the information that's in front of you at the time and not interjecting your own thoughts and feelings into it. So, yeah, hopefully that was worthwhile for you. What else we got? The quizzes, really quickly. I had a couple of people ask. You have to click in a couple of times on the comments if you, in order to get to my comments. If I mark you down on the quizzes, I write a comment. So just that's there. Know that that's there. It takes a minute to click back into it. Let's see here. On them, the majority. There's a couple. There have been a couple instances where people were just off base and just keep doing some wrong answers. The majority of folks that I'm marking down for are not expanding on what you're talking about. If you are writing a 5-word sentence, you're not answering the question. I just want to be clear, it's a graduate level class. I expect a full answer with, at least a little bit of discussion. So think small paragraphs for each Quizlet. Then you'll be fine, assuming that you're pulling from the reading and from the materials, and you'll do well. Let's see, quiz 8, there was confusion on that, on the due date. I'm going to go ahead and sit on that one and wait to grade that until cluster it with next week's. Most of you are done, but I'm going to push that with next week's, since I guess there was some misinformation written in one of the modules. Okay, so onto the material last week. The big thing that I want as your takeaway from last week was really, one of the big thing. There's two major points that, if I can get you to remember anything from those units, please. First is reaction range theory, really important concept in social work. It's reaction range theory branches off the nature-nurture question, okay? So really what reaction range theory states is that, when everybody's, pulling punches on the debate of whether something's nature or nurture, there are very few things in life and existence that are one or the other, okay? Reaction range theory basically encompasses both and basically says that, it's in the name, reaction range, that there's a range of possible reactions for any particular thing that you're talking about. So let's say, if we're talking about whether this was something that was, ingrained versus something that came from environmental influences. So let's talk about something like diabetes, for example. It's one of the classic examples. So, you got genetic propensity for diabetes. My family has a propensity for diabetes, right? Now, whether or not people in my family get diabetes, myself included, would depend on various things, right? It's going to depend on diet, exercise, lifestyle, things along those lines, right? Now, the fact is, any given individual has a certain propensity. So there are some folks with a very, very large propensity and very little control over whether or not they end up with diabetes. There are some folks where there's a big range of possibilities. They have a small propensity for it, and diet and exercise is more than enough to even moderate diet and exercise will be enough to keep that at bay. Okay, where one sits on that propensity level, okay, is reaction range. That's their range of it's the range of sort of where you sit on any given propensity for a certain thing, if that makes sense. It's a really cool theory. When you look at it and you start applying it around, it starts making a lot of sense. Look at it in terms of clinical diagnoses. Look at it in terms of things like the twin studies, okay? Like, talk about things like identical twins where one ends up with schizophrenia and one does not, okay? So, obviously, there were environmental factors since the twins have identical genes, okay? Obviously, there were there were mitigating factors, that push one way and the other not, okay? So, when you think about that, it's a pretty cool way of looking at things. So think about that, try and apply it to some different situations. It's going to go a long way in looking at development, and back to sort of why it matters as a social worker. I think it's a huge thing to understand that there's a variety of propensities, and that we may or may not know, mostly will not know how any given person is arriving at a certain thing, be it a clinical diagnosis or otherwise. Okay. Other thing that I wanted to take away: family systems theory. Maybe the largest concept in social work. It's a direct branch off of the person environment. Family systems theory basically is sort of the micro meso level of pi. So really, when you think about family systems, okay, think about the fact that every single person in a family system affects every single other person in that family system, okay? So something's going on with mom, that affects dad or other mom, or the oldest kid, the youngest kid, the middle kid. Everybody's affected by everything, okay? Because a family functions as a unit, okay? It dispels sort of that mentality, which I think can be an issue in clinical work, where an individual's experience is their own in a bubble, okay, and really creates the push towards what we call a family systems approach, towards working with individuals, particularly like in my line of work where we work with kids. I never say we work with kids. I say we work with kids and families, okay? I say we work with kids in the context of their families. Now, what does a family mean? I mean that in the larger sense of the world. I mean a foster family. I mean a parent, single parent, nuclear, Harry and Ozzy type of family. Sure, same-sex couples, of course, foster families, any family, grandparents raising grandchildren. Okay, I'm not defining family, but I am saying that whatever family is for an individual, that system affects the individual. Family systems theory, ladies and gentlemen. In 2 minutes or less, right? Yeah, there's whole classes on family systems theory, and there's actually degrees that are based around family systems theory, like MFTs and whatnot. So, huge concept. I hope that if you're going to continue in doing any type of work with kids, you'll look into family systems theory and buy into it. Let's see what else. Next week, you're going to be talking about culture and society, really kind of zeroing in on what cultural competence means in the larger sense of it. Don't be too myopic in your thinking about it. Remember that being inquisitive is the most important thing there. We're going to talk about, as we move to the second arc of the class, we're going to talk about development, okay? And we're going to start looking at the fetal stage and then infancy this week, moving on later to the kids getting bigger. Some specific developmental stuff in there, knowing a little bit about a lot in there, but interesting stuff, I hope, for you. The ASQ paper, I hope that in terms of progress, you are all writing your papers, or at least have some outlines sketched out. Interviews should be completed. ASQ's done. I've seen some good progress on the Q&A board. People getting their stuff done, which get it going. This is a really quick class. We're halfway there, and before you know it, those are going to be due. So that's all I got. Hope you all are well. Please contact me anytime. Email, text, phone, anything you need, I'm here for you. All right, folks, we'll talk to you soon.